Authors Alcove, where word lovers meet. Today I have a children's book author, Mark McCraw, not McGraw, but McCraw. He is the father to 4, and he's a grandfather to 9, and also author of 8 published books, the most current being Brains over Brawn. But before we get started, Mark, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi, this is Mark McCraw. I'm an Oklahoma children's book author. It's nice to see you, and thank you for allowing me to come on today. I have been writing since 2020. I've been in education for over 10 years, working all the way from infants to college students. I have been in the Air Force and Air Force Reserve, a corrections officer, teacher, teacher's aide, migrant, Head Start, daycare. I've pretty much busy with the education and things like that. And so that was, just been really busy. I decided to write children's books with, using my education experience, being able to use some of my Air Force experiences and things like that. So that's what's helped me write a lot of books is using those experiences from my children and grandchildren, and being an elementary school teacher. So I kind of delve those stories into there, as well as delving some of the stories that I've had as a child, and I kind of mix those up into the stories.
Awesome. So, what inspired you to actually become a writer?
Actually, what inspired me is I actually saw other people. I saw other people who were actually authors. So when I was a teacher's aide, I would see them coming in and stuff like that. And I wanted to ask them questions about, what it's like to be an author. And it wasn't until, 15 years later that I decided to write books. And I had all these stories in my head. And I'm kind of the kind of person that once I get a pre-writing thing going, I have to start it right away. I can't wait until the next day, because I will forget it. So um but that's how I decided to start writing, really, is just as life experiences, really.
Your most recent book was Brains over Brawn, and it's actually about bullying, which I think is a very important topic. Do you mind sharing the inspiration behind that book?
Well, the inspiration around that book came with a boy who had been bullied. He had actually moved from Florida to New Hampshire. Was a Southerner in a northern school. He got bullied a lot because of his accent, and really just used some strategies to overcome the bullies, because it was more than one bully. So Marcus actually goes through this journey of not only having to deal with moving and dad getting a new job, he also has to experience being bullied by multiple bullies, not just one, and how he overcomes all of this situation. Now, in the back of the book, there's a lot of resources about, what to look for as being, whether you're a bully or whether you're being bullied. It actually has resources from stopbullying.gov that actually provides some resources on what kids should look for when that bullying incidents occur. And it really talks about, being in the fifth, the Marcus being in the fifth and the sixth and the seventh, and sharing some statistics having to do with the bullying. And because it is such a big deal, it actually starts even in kindergarten. But this basically focuses on the fifth and sixth and the seventh grade mostly, and really the kind of the elementary and middle school kind of grade, to help them kind of look for those kind of things.
So, this particular book is geared more for, like, did you say 5th grade then?
Yes, fifth and sixth grade, and it talks a lot about Marcus goes through a lot of well, not only one being a bully and also feeling bad about it, but also being bullied. So he kind of goes through some life situations that he's experiencing along the way, and so that's the reason why this was put out, is to share those experiences, and to kind of have other children to look at this and say, you know what, this is exactly what's going on with me. This is how I need to deal with it. So it gives some resources for that I think is very helpful for the students. So
I really appreciate that you didn't just talk about him being bullied, but him also being the bully, because I think sometimes we don't even realize that we are being bullies. And I think that's a really good thing to make people aware. It doesn't take a bad person to be a bully. You have to learn that's the skill of just being kind and treating people the way that they should be treated. I really appreciate that you have both those aspects in that book.
Yeah, and at
Um,
first I was going to leave that out, but I mean, I thought, no, why leave that out? Because they need to know both sides of the coin.
so when did you publish that book?
That was actually published about a week ago, and
Oh,
it's actually on Amazon. And I actually had a student at a school say, "How come you don't have it in print?" I'm like, "I haven't got it in print because I haven't ordered it yet." I said, "I just put it out on Amazon, so." And so now it's making its way through Ingram Spark and making its distribution through the retailers and distributors that way as well. So, you know, I've already seen that book overseas. I don't remember what country it was. I was looking on a website and it's already sold out. So I was excited about that. So
so do you go through are you self-publishing or are you doing traditional publishing?
I actually self-publishing. I have used publishers. I've used at least three of my books are actually published by one is Archway Publishing, which is my first book. Did You Come Home for Lunch? And then I was just about, and the Toilet Paper Caper of 2020 was actually from Palmetto Publishing in South Carolina. So I have used publishers, and I also publish my own books and have people who are vendors and things like that that help me with formatting and the covers and things of that nature. But I kind of build a team of people that I kind of go back to almost all the time. So,
Do you have a preference of which way to do the traditional or self-publishing, having done both ways?
well, actually, I mean, I originally, when I first started, I thought I was actually doing traditional publishing, and it wasn't until I went to a conference that I realized, even though I paid for those to be published, it's still considered self-publishing. And so that was an eye opener for me because, traditional publishing is difficult to get into. And I think the reason why I started doing it this way is because a lot of businesses that have independent stores, they want you to make sure you have a publisher or, going through a distributor. They really won't talk to you in a lot of independent bookstores if you just come in and hand them a book. So they want to make sure that they're dealing with publishers and distributors, and they're more willing to, put your books in their store if you have those already on Ingram Spark or on Amazon KDP. And so that's really the crux of it all is just having those resources out there, and they're more willing to work with you on future book events and things of that nature because they know that they're getting discounted. They know that the books are in their system, and it's helpful for the customer. So
Thank you so much for sharing all that because I'm not yet there where I'm doing self published or published because I'm still working on my first draft of my personal fiction book. I do nonfiction, but I feel like that's just a totally different world than fiction world. So I want to talk back about your first book, Did You Come Home for Lunch? Can you share what inspired it and the themes that are in it? Because that one's more geared for kindergarten, first grade, did you say?
yes, it's for the younger grade. It's based on a boy that's 3 years old, and he experiences his dad going away in the military and not realizing that his dad had been gone a couple of weeks. At that age, they don't understand time, and so it's really about a reunion of mom and dad, or in this case, dad. Going in the military and going away for a couple of weeks and coming back, and the little boy not realizing that did you come home for lunch? He that's what his first comment was, and just the innocence of a 3-year-old. So, and that's how that came about. Is a story who actually happened, and and how he was dealing with his dad being gone, and has a reunion at the very end. So, I think that's so important. It's kind of a group of children that mom and dads go away for a long time in the military, but I also try to share with the ones that are not in the military, the children that their parents are not military, that mommy and daddy might be in the oil field or they might be on business away for a month or whatever. So I never leave them out. I always, ask the children like whose parents or uncles, grandmas, whatever have been in the military. And then we talk about that. But then I also, on the other hand, don't leave the other children out as well. And then just bring that up and say, regardless, that homecoming is so important, that you're hugging them and that kind of thing. So it's very important that on that particular market to do that. And a lot of times I'll go out to uh, the local base, Air Force Base, and during the month of April, which is the month of the military child, and share some experiences about that. So
I like that you include others as well. I know, like, people like children of pilots, even though it's only like a week or two that they're gone, but they're still, and then even businessmen who travel a lot. So I think that's a really important topic. So you have written 8 books so far. What one would you say was the most fun for you to write?
I think the most fun was Babbling Betty. Babbling Betty is an alliteration book using the letter B. And it just has some real stories in there that kind of juicy stories, and just kind of fun about a little girl named Betty who gets in. She likes to read, so she goes to the library and she gets a lot of books, but she keeps getting in trouble in school because she's always babbling, on the bus and babbling at home, and so you kind of walks through the different kinds of places that she's babbling and how she gets over that, and it's kind of a really fun story at the end how it turns out. So I'm not going to tell you all of it, but I will tell you it's fun. And I actually had another author say, it sounds like when you read the summary to Babbling Betty, it almost sounds like you're reading a Dr. Seuss book. And I'm like, well, not Dr. Seuss, but it is a tongue twister, and it's a book that if you not careful, you can get lost in it if you don't take your time and listen real intently to it, because and a lot of children they haven't really learned a lot of literary terms until they start getting up high in the higher, elementary ed and on up. But it kind of helps them say, hey, it's like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickles, that kind of thing, and so they can kind of relate to it. And I said it was just so much fun. And I worked with actually an illustrator on TikTok named Artful Alley, and this was our first book that she illustrated. So I was excited about that, and really turned out fun. So,
I, it does have a cute little cover. I did check because I was checking out that. Um, is that one a read aloud then, I'm assuming?
well, I've actually, believe it or not, I've actually read that in December of 22. I actually read that on YouTube, and in November of 22, I read several other books. So I have those out on YouTube where I do the read-alongs, and they're called indie read-alouds. So I do those frequently, and then I'm hoping to do another one pretty soon. To share, some of the other books that I have. I'm hoping to do The Problem Is, which is a book that my granddaughter was put out in April, and that one actually was bought in Australia 3 weeks after it was on the market. So I was excited about that. And so I enjoy writing these books. They're just very therapeutic. Somebody the other day says, every time that you talk about your books, you have a smile on your face and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, you know what? When I go to the VA, my blood pressure is a lot better because I talk about my books. But it's a therapy thing for me. It really is, and it's just rewarding. It's not about the money. It's really about making a difference in the lives of children and being able to share. And I had a little girl, I think it was last week, who came up to my booth, and she says, I just came over here to tell you that I bought Babbling Betty and I really liked your book. So it really made me feel good that somebody, some child took the time to actually come see me with their parent and tell me that. So I was happy about that.
That's awesome. I thought for sure you were going to say your favorite was the Great Caper of Toilet Paper.
That one's good too, and it's it's kind of one of those things. You have a lot of favorites. I like that one too because it uses rhyming, and really talks about theme related about hoarding and those kind of things. So it really teaches children about being greedy and trying to take advantage of other people. So that was a reason why I wrote that book. And I actually had a publisher one time tell me, take off the 2020. I'm like, no, that's important. And so later on, I did publish it to a different publisher, and I actually dedicated that to my grandson. And I actually saw him the other day in school. He didn't realize I was going to be there, and I actually dedicated that book to him, and he was excited when I got to share it in his class, or in the library with his class, and he had no idea I was there. So he really appreciated that.
You talked about right before we hopped on here how you do a lot of different marketing and reading different places. How do you get in touch with these places that you're able to do that?
Really just talking to the librarians and, kind of building that kind of person to person kind of interaction. Um, and really just finding those resources is main thing. A lot of elementary schools, because there's so many things going on, they usually may not do an author visit. They may only do one a year, or they may have things scheduled later on. So I always try to jump on the bandwagon early because you want to get on the calendar to be able to do that. But really, it's just about that. And I could probably do a lot more schools, but with all the other things that I'm doing, I'm trying to kind of limit myself to doing a couple in the spring and a couple in the fall, because I do other events. I do craft events and markets and things like that. So I don't want to overtask myself, but at the same time, I go to daycares and things like that. So I still want to share throughout the year with children, whether it be virtually, whether it be in person or whatever, So, and I've done virtual author visits with a second grade class in Arizona. So
I've noticed that, like with a lot of your books, you have very important themes. What are some of the what would you say is the most important theme that you've covered, or at least themes?
I think really the bullying, that was a big one, because there's so many kids that are being bullied, but a lot of it, several of them are about moving, uh, and what it's like to, and of course the bullying book also has themes about moving and being angry and things of that nature, and change. So there's really a lot of different themes in that book when it comes to that, for Brains Over Brawn. But the other ones, again, like I said, the toilet paper caper was about greed and things like that. So, living on a military base, that's really about a child who is in a foreign country, and he's really telling another child what it's like to live on a military base and what it's like to live in a foreign country. And then how throughout his life, his parents influenced him into the military and things like that, and he got into the military later on, and so how that all came about. So it's kind of really turns around from him being young to him actually being old at the end, and being an adult and going in the military. So that's how that came about. And I really write for every child and grandchild. I kind of work my way down the list, and I've got one that I'm working on in the fall that I want to get done for my grandson, and he's going to be the author. I'm going to be the co-author, and then I'll have an illustrator, and so he'll actually get to do some of the promotions and things of that nature. So I'm excited about that, and he's excited, and we've got a really good story coming out, so I can't wait. And we already kind of looked on Amazon for some costumes already, and so I think it's going to be a fun book when it comes out.
Great. What age group are you guys targeting?
We're actually going to be targeting like fourth and fifth grade. So it'll be a chapter book. And it's just going to be a fun little book. It's about this kid that goes through some adventures and how he deals with it and stuff like that. So I'm excited about it. I really am, and I've collaborated with my grandson on it. He's got the illustrations that he wants me to put in there, and we've kind of been working on it and trying to get it ready. So hopefully, I've actually taken the order of the books that I have and kind of reversed it and put his in front. So his will be after Brains Over Brawn is obviously out, and so that's the next book that I'm going to be putting out next. And then I've got two more that are lined up behind that are on my desk that I'm already been pre-writing on. So my goal is to at least get three of those done before the end of the year, and then two more Kindles.
Wow, you're going to be busy. So, what are some of the themes that you plan on tackling with these next upcoming books?
Well, one is actually going to be one has to do with kids that get into accidents and things of that nature. So it's kind of about that. And then, of course, this other one is just a fun book with my grandson. And it's, I can't really tell you all the details, but I can tell you that it's going to be a fun book. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the person who illustrates it. I had an illustrator, but she's just tied up right now. So I'm going to look for another illustrator, and hopefully we'll get that going and put that book out. Because chapter books are a little bit, they're longer, but they're a little easier to put together, I think, sometimes. Uh, because it's, for me, it's just you don't have to put as many illustrations in there. But with the lower grades, I like to put a lot of pictures. But and then the chapter book, I don't want it to be all text. I've never been a all text kind of kid. So I like to see, I like the child to look at the book and be able to find some pictures in there and things of that nature. So I did the same thing with Brains Over Brawn. I tried to make it this size, the 5x8, and really the reason why I did this is a lot of fifth graders and sixth graders, as I've taught them, might want to stick it in their back pocket or in the book bags, and it's just easier to tote around than a big giant book, and it's really designed for that way, you know.
What's nice having those pictures in the older for the fourth and fifth grade books is because a lot of moms read those books to their younger kids. I know, like, I'm always reading, like, I'll read Little House on the Prairie and all of those type of books to my 7-year-old and my 2 4-year-olds, and they get into them, but they do get excited when I turn the page and they see a picture. So I try to pick out the books that have the pictures, because there's a Little House on the Prairie that has pictures and there's ones that don't.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I'm a visual kind of person. I think that that's good to do that, so at least for me, so I'm hoping that the reader will like it too. So that's my goal.
What's your favorite age group to write for?
I actually like writing. I was a second grade teacher, so I'm kind of partial to second grade. And I like the kindergartners, the first graders, and second graders because they're just so funny. They're still trying to figure out the difference between a statement and a question. And, they'll come up with just the funniest things. You're like, well, what do whatever. You ask them a question, they go, I had brownies for lunch today. It's just off the wall kinds of things, or like, it's just precious. It really is. And I actually used a lot of those kind of things when I did the problem is for my granddaughter. I actually recorded the dialogue in my text messages throughout the year of things that she would say. And so when I made that dialogue, even though it's a very thick book, it's 104 pages, it is very large. But she knows that every time she goes through that book, she can see the pictures, and without even the text, she can tell you what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And she'll say, Detective Molly on the case, she'll go through there. And I've had adults, I kid you not, buy this book and read it to their homeschool children and co-ops and stuff like that. So I was really excited that I had somebody from a co-op actually write on Amazon a little review on it, which I was excited about. And I've actually, believe it or not, I've sold more of those recently because it just people were like it. They liked it. So
I'm pretty big into the homeschool community, and that's probably where what I was thinking. I'm going to have to recommend some of these books, especially the one that I have not looked over, that Brains over Brawn one, but I think that's so important, and that might be something that I'll recommend to some of my homeschool groups that I'm part of.
very cool.
So, growing up, did you have a favorite children's book?
Well, my favorite really was Dr. Seuss. I love Dr. Seuss books. I love to, watch the shows on TV, and I got into those. And even at today, when Dr. Seuss stuff comes on, I like those kind of things. It's just so much fun, and people don't realize how many books Dr. Seuss has actually written. It's just amazing. Some of the books, Green Eggs and Ham, and some other ones, and I love them. I love to watch the shows, and it's just really cool. It's, you know, um, and like a kid asked me the day, are you famous? I'm like, I'm not, I'm only famous to my children and grandchildren. But if one child comes up to me and says, hey, I like your book, then I've done my job, not only for literacy reasons, but I also do it for legacy reasons, that I want each child that I have and grandchild to have a book specifically dedicated to them, and that they know is their book, and it's about them. Um, and so that's what I do. And one of the books, I have 3 sons and a daughter, and my daughter actually illustrated I Was Just About for her brother, who is her second brother. And so she's the illustrator, and she dedicated it to her brother. So it's pretty cool.
That's so sweet. That's awesome. Well, I have really appreciated you being on here and all that you've shared, and just being able to share about the importance of the themes that that you're writing about. I think that is so incredibly important. But I do have to ask one more question before you go. Is do you have? Oh, I'm sorry. As a published author, because I am not yet, unless you count my nonfiction, but in the fiction world, I am not yet a published author. What advice would you give to us who have not yet published?
Really, I would say never give up. You can do this. I mean, I have people in the last couple of years that have come up to me and they said, I can't write a book. I'm like, yes, you can. You have experiences. You write down in journals. You do those kind of things. So I think confidence is the big thing. I never thought I'd get past the first book, honestly, and it's really just about determination, and doing something every single day, to help you get along and to be able to really go out and portray yourself. Really, it's all about relationships, I believe, and getting people to be interested in your book. Uh, I get discouraged sometimes when I look on Amazon or I see, these, big numbers and stuff like that. But then I also sit back and I think about that's not the reason why I got into it. So one, you need to know what your why is, and two, you need to be able to think that you can do this. You can do this, and it's not as hard as you think. It's actually a lot easier now than it would have been when I was a teacher. It was more difficult then, but now with self-publishing, the doors are open, really.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that advice. I think that's my favorite part of doing this is hearing all the advice that you guys have, and everybody has is something else that they really feel they took away, and that is just so incredibly awesome. But again, thank you so much, and I can't wait to. Do you guys have a title yet, or is it not yet a title for you and your grandson's book?
That one I do have a title, but I'm gonna wait on that because it's a surprise. I don't want to give it away.
Yeah, so we know we should be looking out for it.
Yes, it's going to be a funny book. I think you're going to enjoy it, and
Great.
it'll actually have his name on it. I've talked to his parents about it, and they agreed. It won't have his picture on the back, but it will have his his name on the book, and it'll be a book that he'll cherish, I think, forever.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again so much. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.